You're listening to the Staging Sips podcast with Lori Fisher. This podcast is dedicated to helping real estate staging CEOs build healthy businesses that grow, flow, and thrive. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This week's one is a good one. We are talking about how to price your home staging services. And truthfully, the title of this should probably be how to price your home staging services so you actually make money. This is a hot little topic over on Facebook and in the Facebook groups. I see this pop up a lot. This is huge. People are always wondering what other people are charging. How should they charge? How should they think about it? So I want to clear a lot of that up for you today. And we're going to be talking about how somebody who is more established in that end of the growth phase, accelerate phase of business. And if you don't remember those podcasts, those are podcasts 2 and 3, growth phase and accelerate. So if you are in kind of that accelerate zone of business, what should you be thinking about for your pricing? And if you're in the growth phase of business, what should you be thinking about pricing? And I really wanted to talk about this today because I keep hearing from stagers that are not making enough money. They're not making enough money to pay their expenses, and they're definitely not making enough money to pay themselves. And that is a freaking travesty in my book. That is not okay with me. It is not okay with me that we have people who go into this business who help people immensely, make a lot of money, and are not paying themselves. My design assistant is planning her wedding right now. I know that the musicians she's looking for her wedding band are charging more than a lot of you probably are for helping someone sell their biggest personal asset in the world. Their most expensive. They're making tons of money, and we are not charging adequately enough to care for even ourselves. So let's stop doing that. We're going to nip that in the bud today with this episode. So I want to say this too, if you're in the growth phase of your business and really well into your accelerate phase, you're likely going to be reinvesting in your profits from your business back into your business. It's totally normal. And especially if you operate with inventory in your business, that is normal. So you may not be quote unquote profitable in your business when that is happening, but we can plan for you to be making money to cover your expenses, including your salary, and be planning for paying all of the expenses out of your business. Even if you don't get profit, you will still be able to get paid. So let's dive into that. But the first thing is, I want to say this. There are some ways that you should absolutely not be setting your pricing. First of all, you shouldn't be looking to other business owners to set your pricing. I have a student who was super excited. This is a student in Rethink You. She was super excited because a local staging business owner who was really busy and had a huge client base was closing her business. And they were meeting to hand off this book of business, this other stager's list of referrals to this client. And she was saying that she was going to actively be sending them to my student as a new staging contact to her existing clients. My student was thrilled until she had her first phone calls with some of these clients of the previous stager. They all could not believe how expensive my student was. And they did not book with her as a result because she was more expensive. So now, of course, it looked like this woman had an amazing business, but maybe she's closing her business and not selling her business because she is not profitable, because her pricing wasn't at all aligned with caring for a growing business. And that's a shame because there are people out there that need us. And if we are not making money and we are closing our doors because we aren't making money, and I'm not saying that that's what it is, it could have been something totally different. But if that is where you are, let's work on this. Let's not have you close your doors. Let's work on how do you right size your pricing and how do you get your mind wrapped around right size pricing so that you do stay in business. You also don't set your pricing based on the feedback from prospective clients. Unfortunately, because our industry is so new and the education has come through places like HGTV. And I feel like literally every podcast I'm knocking HGTV. I mean, I love HGTV as much as the next person. However, there is so much information on that network about how staging operates and what it costs. And if that's where our clients are getting a lot of their information from, or if they're working with staging companies that aren't pricing their services correctly, they are going to question pricing that is probably more aligned to cover the cost of a staging business as well as the business owner's salary, right? Like they're definitely going to balk at it. And it doesn't mean that your pricing is wrong. It simply means that you have not gotten good at selling your pricing yet and conveying the value of what you do, and that it is a return on investment, that it actually is not money out the door and lost forever, right? There is a tangible and real financial return on investment. Okay, so there's my little soapboxes there. So like I said, we're going to address two things. We're going to address the math of setting your pricing and the logistics of that. And we are going to deal with the mindset and the thoughts around your pricing, because that is really the harder part. Math, believe it or not, even for those of us who are not big fans of math, I'm not a big fan of math. That's the easier part. That's the much easier part. So I want to start by diving into a business that has been growing and is probably approaching accelerate. And again, if you're not sure of how I'm defining those, go back to episodes 2 and 3 to listen to those. But essentially, I'm talking to the business owner who has started to get busy, that you're kind of tapping out on your time and you are thinking about, or you already have brought in new team, and you are starting to be in a place where you likely need to be adding more inventory if you're running a vacant or an occupied staging business that incorporates inventory. You're likely to be spending more time doing some binge shopping in order to accommodate the business that's coming in. Okay, so that's the math we're talking about right now. In a minute, I will talk about, for those of you who are newer in business, how you set your pricing. But I would love for you to listen to this section as well, because this will show you what's ahead for you. Okay, so here we go. For the kind of growth accelerate business owner, you are going to start step 1, looking at your fixed monthly expenses. So what are the expenses that you pay every single month? Go into your bank account and your bank statements, and I want you to capture in a spreadsheet all of this. Inside Rethink You, we have these spreadsheets already. So if you're thinking about joining Rethink You, you will get access to the spreadsheet that I use for this in our business. But it is very powerful to get it off of your bank statement and into a spreadsheet where you can add it all up. And I would even say, for those of you who are in like a QuickBooks, and I'm in something called Studio Designer, it is not as helpful to see it in the bookkeeping system as it is for you as the business owner to tap these numbers in yourself into a spreadsheet and to see that total. So what are the fixed monthly expenses? I have a few things that you need to include in here beyond, your website hosting and maybe your car payment and maybe your insurance and things like that. There are a few things I like to add into this so that you have this available for you in your total. So in addition to your fixed expenses, I like to include what the salary is that I would like to be making as a business owner. I include that in my list of expenses, and here's why. A lot of business finance will tell you that the business owner gets paid from the profit. However, I want you to see what it looks like to run a business where your salary is in it over and over and over again every month, because when you're setting your pricing and you're setting your goal for how many of each service you need to be selling on a regular monthly basis, you really want to be reaching for covering your salary as well, not just getting the leftovers. So I would put what salary you want to be making in that list of fixed expenses. In addition to that, you want to include any payroll of that is not captured in the cost to deliver the service, because we're going to talk about that in a minute. So this is like your payroll. So for example, if we're doing a vacant staging service, this wouldn't include any staging assistants, or if you have in-house movers, this is like your bookkeeper or your virtual assistant. If you have somebody who makes, social media posts for you, or you could even include your administrative assistant in here. It's not, not necessarily billable out to a client. So there's a lot of admin time that, gets done in the background just to keep your business running, not really associated with delivering of one of your services. So I like to include that in here as well so that we're capturing that. I also like to include a line item for investing in inventory and a line item for investing in education. So, you're going to be purchasing inventory for projects. So add in, $500 a month or $1,000 a month of your fixed expenses, because that is what you want to strive to be, paying for over time. You want your services to be able to help give you kind of a safety net and a buffer for when you have to buy inventory, because a lot of us end up on our heels and we're like, oh no, I don't, here it goes. I've got to ramp up the credit card again. And, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you can actually start to plan and prepare to sell your services and price your services so that you can account for a regular budget line item for inventory and education, you'll be much better off in the end. Okay. So monthly fixed expenses, which includes your salary. It includes any any payroll not captured in the cost to deliver your services, a line item for inventory, and a line item for education. That's what we want you to put in your fixed expenses. So then you'll get a kind of a monthly total. And then I want you to total that by 12, because that'll tell you how much annually you need to be bringing in through your services in order to cover just your expenses, as well as those other line items that I mentioned. Okay. So that's your step 1. Whew, I'm already tired. But it's having this in a spreadsheet makes it really, really easy to do. Step 2 is we want to look at what you're currently charging for your services. And then we want to look at what does it cost to actually deliver those services. So if you've got a vacant staging business, you can do this at multiple price points, because maybe you have price points that sort of, kind of vary depending on the size of the house. Like in our area, there are certain houses that I always know our baseline is like $4,200. And then there are ones that are typically in the $6,500 range. And then they go up from there. So I use these standard numbers to play with in my numbers. That doesn't mean those are right for your business. I just am telling you what we do in ours. So you want to take, so say, let's for ease's sake, let's say you're going to take a vacant staging service that you typically sell for around $5,000, for your installation plus whatever rental terms you have. So let's say it's $5,000. Then what you want to do is look at what does it cost to deliver that service. So how much does it cost for your stagers, for your movers, for, if you have to rent a truck, all of those kinds of things. What does that cost you? Okay. So start there. What do you charge? What does it cost you? And when you subtract what it costs you from what you're charging, that shows you what you have left to pay for your expenses, your fixed expenses that you just did in step 1. So let's say, for simplicity's sake, let's say you have a business that has $5,000 in monthly fixed expenses. And let's say you charge $5,000 for a vacant staging service. And when you subtract what it costs to deliver that vacant staging service, you are left with $2,500. So you're 50% profitable for that service. So you have $2,500 now that will apply to covering that $5,000 in expenses of yours. So I hope that makes sense. So you would have to book 2 services per month at $2,500 or at $5,000 to be able to cover your fixed expenses. Anything above that becomes profit for you, right? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Again, inside Rethink You, if you're thinking about joining, we're opening enrollment in 2023 at the time of this recording. We have all of this inside of Rethink You for you to work through and access. So that's step 2. Now, what you look at is look at each of your services and determine how many at each price point, like I said, you need to sell over the course of the year to cover your annual expenses, right? So if you know that for every $5,000 vacant service, you've got $2,500, and we had said you have $5,000 in expenses each month, that's $60,000. How many of those $5,000 vacant staging services do you need to book per year to cover that $60,000? Knowing that you clear $2,500 after you pay for what it costs to deliver that service. So what is that? It's probably like, I don't know. I can't do that math that fast. It's like, I don't know what. Anyway, that's how you do that math. See, I told you math is not like my strong suit, not my thing. That's why the sheets help. So you want to understand how many of each service, and you can do this for each one of your services. You can do this for your styling evals, which are, my version of the consultations, as well as several price points for your vacant staging. When you do that, that will help you understand, and you can play with these numbers as much as you want. You can bump up the price of your vacant staging so that you become more profitable after you handle see what it costs to deliver the service, and, just kind of play and see what that looks like. All of this should be a guide for you, in terms of what you need to book. Then what you want to look at is when are you busiest in your business? Are you busiest in the spring? Are you busiest in the fall? Are you steady all throughout the year? Because then what you'll know is, okay, we do 60% of our business in the spring. So I need to bring in 60% of that revenue in the spring. So you want to be, understanding how many services you need to deliver in the spring that are going to help you cover the expenses throughout the rest of the year. Because you do have to remember that there are places where it's very seasonal. So you also want to add that in. You want to add in a little price jump for that as well, because you're not necessarily making money the same throughout each year, right? So that's step 3. And then step 4 is evaluating all of this regularly. I like to look at things in what I call the integration periods of the business. Those are, for me, those are when our staging business is quieter, the summer months and year end. So I call those periods of integration, because we can finally breathe, look back over the previous really busy season that we've had in our business, and adjust and make changes as needed based on our new learnings during that period of time. And pricing is certainly one of those. So step 1 is capturing all of your fixed expenses. Step 2 is looking at what you're currently charging and what does it cost to deliver that service, and what's that money left over that you can apply to those fixed expenses. Step 3 is determining what your service mix should look like now that you know how many, of each service is helping you chip away at paying your fixed expenses, and then kind of dialing that in even further and understanding how many you should try to be booking for the various seasons of your business, or to prepare to help you cover quieter times in your business. All right. Woo, that was a lot. So I hope that is clear. Now, for our newest business owners, some of that probably made you want to tune right out, and I don't blame you, but you can come back and reference this, save this, bookmark it, whatever you do. I don't even know what you do in podcast land in order to save this, but you can save this so that you have this for future reference. All right. For newest business owner, your math is it involves more research more than anything. So the first thing is that you want to look at, what are the total available number of weeks that you will be working in your business? So a lot of us since we're a directory of one, we need to understand how many weeks do we actually have available during the calendar year. If you take 4 weeks of vacation, so you automatically are starting with, you've got 48 weeks that you are operating your business. Then you want to take out holidays. So that takes things down even more. You can go Google your country's observed holidays and just start with that. Or if there are any additional that you take for your family, take those right out. And then that will help you understand exactly how many weeks you have available. And then you want to look at each week. How many appointments do you have available each week? Because each appointment takes time, right? So let's start with a consultation-based business, because that's probably where I think most staging businesses should start. I really think you start with a consultation-based business. So let's say your consultation or your styling eval is a 2-hour. You like to block off 2 hours for the actual appointment, the time on site with the client. You're also going to want to add in travel time to and from, as well as if there's any deliverable coming out of that. So if you create a plan, you are going to want to probably earmark another 2 hours for that. So a 2-hour styling evaluation appointment can actually be a 4 to 5, maybe even 6 hours of your time. So what does that look like each week for you? And then obviously you want to leave days where you're marketing for your business. You don't want to be filling your calendar completely with appointments and not working on your business because you're always working in your business. So that's where you want to start when you're thinking about your pricing. That is your step one, is how many available appointments do you have each month in order to run your business? The next thing is you want to think about, and this is where you want to think about being a bigger business, is how much would you pay someone to do the various jobs? So if you're doing right now as a directory of one, you're handling pretty much everything. But what if you were paying a stager to take those consultation-based appointments for you? So say you're paying $25 an hour. I know the range is quite wide across the United States and probably very likely in anywhere in the world, right? But let's say 25 for the sake of easy numbers and math. How much would you charge? So if you charge $25 for a styling evaluation, and we determined in step one, it's probably 6 hours of time. So you're going to be paying that person $150 for that service. So if you're going to be paying someone $150 and you want to be 50% profitable, then you're looking at a minimum of $300. That's just to cover their time though, right? So then there are other things that you're going to be wanting to think about adding in, because we haven't even talked about covering business expenses, right? So at a minimum, you might be starting at $300 as that consultation before you start adding that on. So that's step two. And that, of course, is a little more complicated when you are looking at a vacant staging, right? With a vacant staging, you've got to start to guesstimate sort of how much time will it take for you to visit a site, take the measurements, determine the furniture needs, pack and pull the items, pull and pack the items, load the items into whatever vehicle you're using, unload the items, install the items, destage, packing them all up, loading them all up, bringing back to your facility, and then reshelving them. That's a lot of time. And it's probably a lot more than you're thinking. But that is the kind of stuff, the kind of math, and the kinds of thought you want to be giving to your pricing when you start thinking about that. Okay. So that's your process right there, is to start by understanding what those costs are. So again, if you're doing a vacant staging business, some of the research that you'll want to do is to say, okay, so what would a storage facility, rent cost if I'm going to start by putting my stuff in a storage facility? What would it cost for warehouse space? What would it cost if I hired movers? What would it cost if we rented a truck? What would it cost if I bought a truck? What would that monthly payment look like? Those are all the things that you can start to look at to set your pricing. And again, we have to remember that our pricing is not static. Our pricing is fluid, and our pricing is going to change, and it should change. And that is where some of your mindset issues can really come in. So let's talk about that. So now that we've wrapped all of that up for you, and hopefully that is pretty clear and gives you a good starting point, let's talk about what can come up for you as a business owner. So the first mindset is you really do need to let the math be your guide. So like I shared with the styling evaluation, I started my pricing at $250 because I didn't know any better. And now we are up over $400 for our evals in order to capture the time. And that's actually going up because we go up every year. Your hairdresser does too. They don't make a big deal out of it. You just show up and the price is new and different. So you're not doing anything to people that they haven't experienced in their everyday lives, right? So, But I started there because I didn't know how to really do all of this math. I just thought, oh, I'll make $250. That'll be great. It'll be for me. I wasn't thinking about a larger growing business. So you really do have to let the math be your guide, and you do have to put the hat on of being a bigger business owner than what you probably are right now. Because even if you don't want team, you still will have expenses begin to crop up over time, right? There's gas, there's, car payments, there's vehicles, there's the phone, all of those things. There's home office expenses, or if you rent a place, like there's supplies, tools, you name it. So let the math be your guide. So set up that spreadsheet, or join us in Rethink You next year in 2023 and get access to all of that. There is no right price. There really is only the price you make right. Okay. So you're going to do the math, and that math is probably going to tell you something that's uncomfortable. And you might want to second guess it, and you might want to backtrack, and that's fine. Because I really, at the end of the day, I want you to feel hell yes about your pricing. I want it to feel so good for you when you say it that it's easy for you to sell. Because what happens is, if you struggle and you feel like you're charging too much, that's going to come through when you communicate. And that's when people are going to tell you that they think you're too expensive on a regular basis. And that's going to kind of create a cycle for you. So you want to make sure that the price feels like a hell yes for you right now, but you also have to be willing and ready to bump that price up as you are growing. So that's going to be some of our minds at work as well. You are actively practicing how to sell your services is another great thought. So when people tell you no, it's not that they're telling you no because the price isn't right. It's just that you are simply still learning how to sell the value. And that's going to take some time. So when you get to a price point that you begin to start selling really well and you start humming with it, that's when you really should start increasing it. But you want to increase it in what I call ladder step pricing changes. And I kind of got this concept from Brooke Castillo. She talks about where you are now, where you want to go. And in the middle is kind of called the river of misery. And if you try to go from where you are right now to where you want to be, and you try to do it too quickly, you're going to end up in the river of misery because you haven't acclimated your mind or your nervous system to the new level that you're at. It's kind of like the new level, new devil is the saying. And it's kind of because, first of all, you have new learnings at new levels, but also if you go too quickly and you're not prepared, you're like, it can just derail you. So I want you to think about that you're actively learning how to sell your prices. And as soon as you start selling at that price point, I want you to start taking small baby steps to increase your pricing. Because one of the things is that when we start working with clients, a lot of times they're repeat referrals for us, right? So we get nervous about increasing the prices on them and think that they're going to hate us, think they're going to leave. We come from scarcity. And again, like I said, they're getting price increases at the gas pump all the time. They don't freak out. They're getting price increases at the grocery store. They're not yelling at the grocery store manager. They're not shopping in that place anymore. They are riding the change, right? So you can do the same. But I also want you to be thinking about how can you regularly evaluate the pricing that you've set and then make your changes, because that will also get your regular customers understanding that 2 times a year you raise your prices, right? I just worked with a shutter company at my house to install shutters, and I did half of the house, and the guy said, I just want to remind you that the shutter company has price increases in January and June every year without fail. So if you want to get the best price, keep that in mind. You might want to, if you're not ready for January, you definitely want to place that order before June. That's just what it is, right? Those are the facts. So do your ladder step pricing and understand that you raise your rates so that your business can grow and help your clients even better, right? So if you are operating a vacant staging business and your price increases help your inventory, it be the newest, most current, most damage, blemish free it can be, then that's going to be better results for your clients at the end. If you are growing a staging team and you have more overhead in the form of team and employees so that your services are able to be delivered to more people, you have more appointments available on your books and the communication is better, that's better for your clients, right? So it isn't about punishing your clients, and it isn't about you being self-serving. It is simply about you being able to nourish your business so that it is still there for people, because what you do is so important. There are sellers out there that need us, that are stressed. And if we keep closing our doors because we're not charging enough, then we are doing a disservice to ourselves and to those people who need us. So, all right, that's my little pep talk for you this week. There's a lot of math. I hope your head doesn't explode. And like I said, I'm sure we'll be talking about pricing from all different perspectives, even more as this podcast grows and evolves. So anyway, that's your sip for the week. I hope you have a wicked good next week, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Staging Sips podcast. If you love what you've learned here today and you want to learn more about how to market and grow your staging business more strategically, I would love to see you join us inside of the Rethink You mentorship program. If you want more details and get on our waiting list, you can go to rethinkhomeinteriors.com/waitlist. Looking forward to seeing you in the classroom.